I find it so interesting that I am 42, and when I think about making a YouTube video or something, when I think about something in my heart that I want to share, that I feel called to share, I just don't feel called to share content about what I know that could be helpful to other people. I feel called to explore things, do, very non-scientific experiments, try things out, see how they work, and share what I'm finding in real time. So one thing that I'm experimenting a lot with, again, that term, I'm using it quite loosely, I'm not a scientist, is perimenopausal symptoms, right? I have all these symptoms: poor sleep, weight gain in my midsection, brain fog, exhaustion. And over the past year and a half, I've tried a lot of different things, and some things have worked, some things have not worked at all for me. I don't want to get onto YouTube and say, thou must taketh magnesium glycinate because it will help you. I have no idea if that will help you. And actually, I did try it, and I didn't find it made a difference, as I observed. So I would like to share an experience. I'm experiencing the world. I'm exploring things. I'm, putting pieces together and saying, for the perimenopause example, I tried, let me think, what have I tried? Valerian root to see if it helped with sleeping, and it did nothing. But maybe if I combine it with something else, like magnesium, does that help? In my particular case, what really made a difference was homeopathic medicine that I got in Mexico. And I don't even know what the ingredients are. It's just homeopathic medicine, and the ingredients are from Germany. That's not particularly helpful to others, I recognize that. But for me, it's just like my exploration of things, and I like sharing that with others who might find it helpful. But really, what I really would love is for that to encourage other people to go out and do their own explorations, because all of our bodies are different, and so what may work for me may not work for you, or it might work. But what is important is not that you listen to what I am recommending, health influencers like to do. Here's my 10% off code for whatever supplement. The point that I would love for someone listening or watching to get is this idea, I can do my own exploration of what works for my own health. And I can spend 30 days taking, 5 grams of creatine or 15 grams of creatine and see how that makes me feel after my workouts. Or, there have been studies showing that it has helped, mental health for women. So right now I am trying, 15 grams of creatine for a month, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not far enough in to make a statement one way or the other. So I'd love to find other people. I think my goal is to find my people. And I have a lot of different kind of sub areas that I'm interested in and like to nerd out about. So obviously perimenopause for women in their 40s, women, especially women who are surprised by perimenopause. My sleep I had great sleep for my whole life. I could sleep on the bus. I could sleep on the roof of a house in West Africa. Literally there was nowhere I could not fall asleep. And then suddenly at 38, I would be super exhausted at 6 p.m. for like 30 minutes, like I could not crawl down the hallway to get to the bedroom. So tired. But then once I got into bed, like I missed the window and I could not fall asleep. And I thought it was like, I never once did it occur to me that it's I didn't even know what perimenopause was. I'd never heard of that term. I knew what menopause was. I knew that that meant that your period stopped. I did not know that it is kind of arbitrarily 1 year since your last period. So it's like a moment in time. 1 second you are premenopausal, and the next second you are postmenopausal. But whatever. So I had heard of menopause. I had heard of hot flashes. I thought all of these things happened in your 50s. I did not know there was a period ahead of. I didn't realize that when we talk about menopausal symptoms, we're actually talking about pre-menopausal symptoms. During the period when your periods are no longer regular, meaning occurring every month, if they previously did. Although it seems like you can actually have perimenopausal symptoms even before your period starts to get all wonky and you miss periods because your body can't produce enough of the hormone to successfully deliver the egg from your ovary into your uterus. So, anyway, long tangent, but I just want to explore things, and I don't want to explore them alone, and I don't want to get onto an online platform and say, I know more than you, and I'm going to tell you what to do. Though, I think a lot of people, including myself, get onto YouTube because they do want to be told what to do because they have a problem, or they have a curiosity and they lack information, or they might have the information available online but they want like a human experience as a vessel for that information. So you can read a book or watch a training video on how to use a DSLR camera, for example, but it might be more interesting if you go to YouTube and you have someone who has a channel about that and you want to learn how to triangulate the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO for the light that you have. You can look that up online, but you might want someone to talk it through, and maybe they have a trick that they use to remember whether ISO should be high or low if there's not a lot of light, for example. And so someone's personal experience learning that and mastering that information through their daily use of a camera over a number of years, they can give you a kind of expertise and familiarity that you don't get from just reading a textbook or watching a training video that just explains this is what aperture is, this is what ISO is. That's something I find. For example, I was needing to take a Dutch test, which is a hormone test, P-test, and you take it in perimenopause. Men can also take it, I think, for andropause, but hormone-related problems. So this Dutch test, I needed to take it. It is very complex, all of the instructions. You need to take it. You need to not drink alcohol 48 hours before, and you can't eat fava beans or bananas. And if you're taking hormone replacement therapy, you have to take it at this many hours before or after you do the P-test, and you need to do 5 P-tests. But if you wake up in the middle of the night, then you need to do one more, so that's 6 P-tests. And you can't drink water 2 hours before each time you do the P-test. and you can't have more than 40 ounces of water in a day on the day that you're doing the pee test, and you have to do it for one day evening throughout the next morning, 2 hours after you wake up is the last one. So it's like a lot of complicated pieces, and it's a lot to hold in your head. Also, choose like the day that you need to do the test varies based on the number of days of your period, or if you're not, if you don't have a regular period, then you need to do like a test to see if you're ovulating, and then once you get a positive ovulation test, then you have to take the test 5 to 7 days later. So it's like not like you just go in the bathroom and pee in a cup, right? There's all these other things. And if you, for example, you can't take creatine 48 hours before, because I think it messes up your cortisol reading, but they do estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol. I think that's it, but I'm not, there might be others. I know they do test for those 4 hormones, and they test them to see what the levels are at different times of day and night, because obviously you should have different levels of each at different times of the day, specifically cortisol. And then, I don't remember what phase of your cycle they're testing, but they obviously want to have it within a certain window to see what your estrogen and progesterone levels are compared to what they should be. So anyway, I got the Dutch test, I read all the instructions, and I was like, I went onto YouTube and watched a few YouTubes of people talking about their personal experience with the Dutch test. And I found that to be much more helpful, because they give you like their experience, best practices, tips and tricks that they have learned in doing it, what you should expect, etc. I just find it's a better way to learn, and more, like, it just feels more personalized. Like, more, by personalized I mean literally like human. You feel like, oh, here is a person who has done this thing and knows about it and can give some, share some of their experience, which may be helpful to me since I'm doing this for the first time in the case of the Dutch test. So, I'm curious what everyone else thinks about whether YouTube is a place for instruction where you say, this is what I know, this is what I recommend, here is what I'm teaching, or if it is a place of experimentation. I do watch some YouTube videos where some people are like, oh, I ate only whatever, the perfect diet for 30 days, or I ate junk food for 30 days and this is what happened. I overdosed. I macrodosed creatine and this is what happened. So I do think there's some people out there like myself who are interested in being along for the ride when someone's trying something out. But there's a part of me that feels like, well, you're 42 years old. You do know some things. I have managed projects for 15 plus years, so I know a lot about project management, especially in really difficult, high insecurity, low resource contexts like the Democratic Republic of Congo and other places in Africa. So I could talk about that. I don't really want to talk about that. I'm a little freezer burned from too many years of that kind of work. But anyway, the point is, I know things. I could make a YouTube channel about sharing what I know, and that would be helpful. That would provide value to other people. But I just feel like I'm in the stage of life where I'm in my 40s. Like, I know some things that some of these 20-year-old YouTubers don't know. But really, when you're in your 40s, you just realize how much you just don't know, and how much of the world and our experience of the world is just fundamentally mysterious, and some of it is just entirely unknowable. You know, it's like an ineffable world, and we're lucky to have some faculties for exploring it and trying to understand, like, the very little that our, like, human brains are able to understand. And I love looking at sort of big picture things and dreaming and seeing how different, seemingly disparate pieces of what I perceive are related. And I think that's why I'm having so much fun with, like, this perimenopause, deep dive experiment. So I'd love to find other explorers who are out there tinkering around in the wasteland. And, I've given a lot of examples about perimenopause, but there's so many other places to explore. Art, painting, watercolor painting, acrylic painting, musical theater, writing, adventuring, the hero's journey, like classical Greek hero stories. Colors. I love talking about colors. I love exploring colors. I love how colors make me feel things, and putting different colors with each other just elicit all of this feeling. That's very non-scientific, but again, I'm not really interested in science at all. I mean, science is a great tool, and there are people who have the brains of scientists, and I am definitely more like an explorer on a ship looking for uncharted territory, just to see what's on the other side of the hill, and not to do it in a procedural way. Here's my checklist. Let me see. Do we have enough food for our voyage? Check. Yeah, more like a full-on artistic, creative experience of the exploration itself. So if there's anybody else out there in the wild, wild universe who is also interested in that, please let me know. We could be friends.